So you decide to do a brand around menopause.
Yes, and that's where we met.
Did you get pushback?
I wasn't listening to the pushback. I was listening to myself. That was, like I'm sure you've had a moment, you've had ideas that you've percolated for several months, possibly years, and you test the waters with your contemporaries. I'm sure that most people, when they come up with an idea, just like comedians go out and test their jokes, we think it through. We test through our friends. And I was getting met with, no, you're not in menopause. You're far too young, or don't be silly. If I would say, I'm having an estrogen dip, I would be getting plenty of messaging from those around me that this isn't a real thing. Don't go there, kind of, I'm not willing to talk about it, so why should you? So I definitely kept it tight for a long time.
The views and opinions expressed on UnPaused are those of the talent and guests alone and are provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. No part of this podcast or any related materials are intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. 3.5 years ago, I was invited to consult on a new brand that was being developed in the menopause space by my guest today, the Academy Award-nominated actress and now entrepreneur and author, Naomi Watts. She was building this brand after her own personal struggles with menopause. At the time, I was still a practicing OBGYN running a very new small menopause clinic with just a modest social media following. I was flattered and curious, so I said yes and got on a plane to New York. When I got there, honestly, I was a little nervous. I walked into a room with 30 people, medical experts, advocates, and a group of people from brand development. In the middle of it all was Naomi. Not celebrity Naomi, but quiet, focused, intent Naomi. She didn't just want to sell products. She wanted to normalize the conversation around menopause, build community, and give women language and tools. I asked her point blank if it was scary, as an actor, to label herself as menopausal in an industry that punishes women for aging. She answered fully and honestly, and something she has continued to do in the years since. Since that weekend, Naomi and I have shared the stage on panel discussions and at conferences. And when she asked me to write the foreword for her book, dare I say it, now a New York Times bestseller, it was one of my greatest honors. And she is here today to talk more about all of this with her trademark honesty and desire to build a community of empowered women. I'm Dr. Mary Claire Haver, a board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist and certified menopause practitioner. I'm also an adjunct professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the University of Texas Medical Branch. Welcome to UnPaused, the podcast where we cut through the silence and talk about what it really takes for women to thrive in the second half of life. Welcome to UnPaused.
Thanks for having me.
So excited. Tell me a little bit about baby Naomi. Where did you grow up?
Gosh, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short. I grew up in a small town called Shoreham in Kent, outside of London. I lived there for the first 8 years of my life. My father died very young, and I think after my father died, my mom was on the move a lot, looking for the right place to live, to set up her family. We stayed with my grandparents for quite a while my mom tried to find her feet. And I'm sure my grandmother's going to come up through the conversation because she holds a special place in my heart and has a big presence in my life that comes up over and over again. Yeah, we moved around the UK from school to school, county to county, back and forth to my grandparents. And then, and boarding school in there as well, in Suffolk. Eventually, at the age of 14, my family immigrated, my mom and my stepfather at the time, and my brother to Sydney, Australia.
Wow.
So I moved around a lot as a kid, which had its frustrations, but definitely played a part in me sort of, I suppose, being a good adjuster, very adaptive, someone who's willing to move in different circles, learn and reshape and mold. But then that said, identity is a big repetitive theme in my life.
Your kids have pretty much grew up in one location, right? You've had them in New York? Were you
Between
focused
Los Angeles,
on that?
it was a priority. Not to the point where it was like, this is how it has to be or broken. But yeah, it was definitely important to me and my ex. Absolutely. And really, we went back and forth from the West Coast to the East Coast a lot in the early days, and even did lots of trips on the road while they were little.
Mm-hmm.
And then came a point where it's like, they want to be on a team.
Right.
Or
They want
have
to
their
be normal
friends.
teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, but well before teenagers, actually. Even,
Like 8.
second grade. Yeah, second and third grade. That's when we were like, let's choose a place and hunker down.
Did you always want to be an actor?
No. Of course, at the early days, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be all those things that regular young girls.
I wanted to be an actor.
Did you really?
Yes.
That's so funny. I didn't know that acting was a job, but I did have a very interesting moment watching my mom on stage at 4 years old with my grandmother in the front row. And I kept waving to her like a little kid would, trying to join the story of what was happening. I knew she was like moving around the stage with this beautiful dress and talking in this funny voice and had a wig. And I kept waving and she wasn't acknowledging me. And eventually after, that many times of trying to connect with her, she gave me a little wink and a hand gesture. And it felt like I was transported in that moment into this world of make-believe. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that was a job or much less, definitely not a career. I just thought, ooh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That's something.
So did you do much in high school acting or did you
yes,
drama club?
I did. I mean, ever since that moment I joined, because we were still living in the small town there, what was called the Shoreham Players. So every festive season, there were some skits or whole plays, and I would always be the first to sign up. Mm-hmm. And then that turned into when the move came up from ninth grade, so I was 14, to come to Australia, go to Australia, which I really didn't want to do because I was settled in my peer group. Yeah, and I was like, what do you mean we're moving to Australia? That sounds like the worst idea. The proviso was, or the way that my mum, calmed me down was like, okay, I promise I'll get you acting classes, which was never something we could afford at that point. But I thought, okay, all right, maybe I'll agree to this. And as if I had any choice anyway. But yeah, and we got there and sure enough, she delivered. And, every weekend there was a class and it was like, be your favorite tree, your favorite season, your favorite animal. And it was a very sort of rudimentary beginning of a class. And then that led to another more serious class. And then eventually that was it. I knew this is what I wanted to do.
So when did you realize this could be, you started getting paid? This was becoming a career.
Still lots of detours because, there's that funny old thing called fear, and it drives hard at certain points in your life. I started, doing commercials. I did embarrassing Tampax commercials or cereal commercials, anything. I got to know casting directors. Mm-hmm. Then they started sort of inviting me into bit part, TV walk-on moments, and that took place. And it just wasn't enough that was making me feel like this is something I'm going to really be able to hang around in. And the rejection is personal and it's abundant.
Hard. Yeah.
I kind of was a bit beaten down. Then I sort of stumbled into a fashion career. At the age of around 19, I started assisting my mom, who was working on film and TV as a costume designer. And then that led to assisting other people. And then I got poached by this company called Grace Brothers. I had to sell apparel and create photo shoots, and it was quite a responsible job. And then I got into taken from there to a magazine, which was like on par with Elle and Harper's Bazaar and Vogue and high fashion. It was called Follow Me, and I lasted there for about a year until this very pivotal moment where an old actor friend said, I want you to come and join this class, this workshop for a weekend. And I said, no, I'm not acting anymore. And he said, oh, right, yes, but you're really good and please. And I said, no, you don't get it, because I swore off it and it was horrible for me. And he said, well, could you think of it like this. Do me a favor. We're short on women and it's going to be amazing. But, you don't have to say this is for you anymore. Just do it for me. So I said, okay. So I went and did it. And then by Sunday afternoon, this very sort of small group of actors and the teacher said, this is who you are. And you realize you're denying your dream and you should, start owning that and just
go for it. Do you think it's because maybe you had nothing to lose that weekend that you were able to kind of just pour in and not worry about rejection?
Monday morning, I went and because I did feel like that. I did feel like I was having a moment of, something huge. And I wasn't really I do love fashion to this day, but it wasn't really my calling. Mm-hmm. And so I went on Monday morning and sat in front of my boss and said, I'm going to quit. And I will train someone. I'll stick around for a month. And he said, why are you quitting? You have the world at your feet. You're just beginning at such a young age. You can take this to any place. And I said, it's just not who I am. And he was like, and you want to be an actor? Sure, do that on the weekends anytime. And I'm like, yeah, but I really have to put my mind to it. And anyhow, I did it. And then 2 weeks later, I got cast in this movie called Flirting, which was with my friend who I knew, but not super well, Nicole Kidman.
Okay. That was the beginning of that relationship.
Yes. It wasn't the beginning. The beginning started when we were very, very young. Her sister and I dated the same guy. And there was no overlap, but we were friends and we saw each other. We also, I worked in a deli on the weekends. She would come in. There was social connections, but that's definitely when the friendship was forged. Yeah.
And then when did you end up moving to the U.S.? And did you come for a part or job or position?
No, I moved in my early 20s and I did what many actors were doing, which was come, take meetings. There was no part available or promised to me. I didn't even have a film that was launching me, like certain people, like Nicole, like Judy Davis, like Hugh Jackman. Mm-hmm. So I was really starting again. Basically, even though I had done some work in Australia and it's a small industry over there, I definitely was known within the industry. It really was beginning all over again.
And so you were working part-time
I was working.
While you were getting parts?
I waitressed here. I know I came with some savings, like a few $1,000s and a couple of phone numbers. And I stayed with my mom's best friend, took a bunch of meetings. Everyone was very positive in the beginning. Oh, Australia, we love it. What is it in the water? You guys are amazing. And I thought, oh, wow, everything's going to go great for me. So I sort of went back to Australia, packed up my life, had my farewell party and said, things are going to go great in America. I'll see you later. Anyway, went back and met with some of those people again. And they were like, oh, yeah, I remember you. Let's see your okay, well, good luck to you. And I was like, but I moved my life on the promise of, I took all of their positivity as literal and again, back to square one. And that really led to years and years of auditioning and coming close, but then, or getting a small part, just a little bit to keep me here. Very demoralizing time of my life, trying to prove myself. And you know me well enough. You've seen me in high-pressured situations now. I'm not great when I'm feeling nervous or tested in any way, when I have to prove myself. So auditions just would not go well for me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I met David Lynch, who had...
So that's 10 years.
It was
you
10
were 30.
years.
Well, I guess you were 33 when the movie was released.
By the time it was released, but there was some stops and starts with that one as well. I think I met with David Lynch just before I turned 30 and then, or maybe it was 30. And then we did the pilot and then that got rejected by ABC. And then it sat on the shelf for like a year and a half. And then some French producers came and said, David, could you make that into a movie? Yeah. Can you think of any ideas? And sure enough, he did. So it was like 3 years from the very beginning point to the launch moment.
For our listeners, she is speaking of Mulholland Drive. So anyway, this was your breakthrough role, really.
This was definitely a change your life role. It meant every director, every filmmaker saw this film alive today. I mean, David Lynch is, so prolific. And it was also the role of the century. I played two different parts almost that were diametrically opposed. One of them was this happy-go-lucky, Betty Elms, and then Diane Selwyn, who was miserable and the world was beating her down. And so I got to play these two parts. And so it was the most wonderful showcase in this film that worked and resonated with audiences and filmmakers.
Amazing.
And critics as well.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So at 36-ish, you decide you're going to start, it's time to have a family. You've met the person you want to have children. You're like, this is it. I'm 36. I know that clock a little bit was probably ticking in your head.
Of course it was.
And some of the hardest part of my job has always been giving tough news to patients.
I bet.
Even today, I'll get labs. Usually in my clinic, we run the labs before we see them for the most part. And so sometimes I'll get surprising news ahead of time. And immediately my mind goes to, how am I going to present this news in a way that is kind, but direct? And I'm going to have all of the resources available to help her. I mean, I've diagnosed lupus in the last year, severe anemia, iron deficiency, lots of things. Fertility is tough. And, I have my own fertility struggles.
We have a lot invested in it as women.
You're just going in, why am I not getting pregnant?
Yeah.
What happened?
I shocked with the news, blindsided by the declaration of me being close to menopause. And my doctor, like you, very gentle, obviously had everything right to say, these are the solutions, these are the things that can take place. It's not the end. He was very gentle. And anyway, fast forward, he delivered my first baby. Yeah, it was shocking. It was really a moment I was not prepared for. Though I had in the back of my head, of my memory bank, that my mother had gone in to early menopause. She did tell me that. She said that she went in at 45. I was 36. I thought I was well ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And she also didn't give me any detail around it, that there were a multitude of symptoms that could go for a lot of years, or that there was any suffering or any of that. She never said that because, I mean, you've heard me say it. These were the stories I didn't share with you because my mother never shared them with me. Yeah, they were told to just sort of suck it up and zip it and cope. And so it was very alarming to me. And I thought, oh God, this is the end. And what have I done? What have I done to harm my body? That blame on yourself. Like, I have lived too much of a stressful life. I've not nourished my body in the right way. All that self-loathing. We pile it on as women. We're the first ones to, say it's all our fault. So it took a long time for me to, move through that. I really was focused on just my fertility. How can I make no a yes, basically?
You've told me stories about being on location and in overseas, in Asia,
in China,
and coming home with baskets of herbs from the Chinese start. You were doing anything and everything you could to enhance your fertility.
Yeah, I've said, and I don't know, I know
what the magic was.
I don't know what the magic was in the end because I did a whole lot of things. And I know there are, many of them are not FDA approved. And so I wouldn't recommend these to all other people by any means. But I felt desperate. I wasn't a candidate for IVF. And I just wanted to try and see, if anything, it was literally like throwing spaghetti at the wall. What's going to stick? Is this going to work? Or am I going to end up, with an alternate road, which I was coming to peace with. I looked into adoption, egg donors, all of those things.
Whole road. How was your partner through all of this? It's very stressful.
I think I drove myself crazy. Definitely.
Yeah.
I was, peeing on those sticks, getting those ovulation tests, those scans, all of that. So anyone around me would have also been rattled. I'm sure he was pretty.
It's the 27th.
Yeah,
It's the 27th.
exactly.
I went through it too.
Yeah.
Both my oldest, Catherine, who's 25 now, was a straight up fertility baby. We had gotten pregnant with some help for right before her, and I lost the baby at like week 6, very, very early, but just in the middle of labor and delivery in front of all of my, coworkers who were all pregnant. And I was the one like limping behind, and then lost the baby, but did manage to get pregnant very soon after that. And that was Catherine. So, but yeah, like obsessive about today's the day. We have to have sex today. There's no other option. Or being in that clinic room with my feet in stirrups while they're cooking up sperm or wherever they're doing and injecting while I'm hanging upside down, praying this will be the one.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a book that I read called Inconceivable by Julia Indachova. I think I'm saying that right. And I was churning up wheatgrass and getting acupuncture and removing certain things from my diet. I saw a great practitioner who put me on this wheat-free, sugar-free, dairy-free diet. I was checking my alkaline. I was doing all of that. But one thing that was showing, I mean, I don't know how far you want to go into the fertility thing, but my egg quality or amount was showing as good, but my FSH was always very high.
Yeah. Your brain was working really hard to get those eggs, out
those
to ovulate.
That last special batch.
If your skin or your nervous system feels a little overwhelmed lately, this may be your sign to simplify. Primally Pure's Blue Tansy products are designed to calm stressed skin using real, biocompatible ingredients that work with your body, not against it. Blue Tansy is a calming blue antioxidant that helps soothe inflammation, redness, and irritation, which is especially beneficial for sensitive skin or for those people whose products tend to overwhelm rather than help their skin. Primally Pure's Soothing Collection incorporates this ingredient across face and body, from their effective deodorant to the soothing serum and body oil, creating a cohesive and calming routine. They've become go-tos for our team when simplicity matters most. Use code UNPAUSED to get 15% off your Primally Pure purchase. That's www.primalllypure.com and use code UNPAUSED at checkout for 15% off your order.
Did you know that hormones can affect your skin? They can affect collagen, hydration, elasticity, all of it. And that's why Alloy Health created M4, their prescription skincare line. M4 is made with estriol, the gold standard estrogen that your body naturally stops producing in midlife. I first heard about Alloy through a close friend who's a dermatologist. She kept mentioning how few products actually address hormonal skin changes. When she explained Alloy's approach, which is grounded in science and hormone physiology, I decided to try it myself. It completely changed how I think about skincare at this stage of my life. I started with the M4 face cream, and now Alloy has added 2 more products, the M4 face serum and the M4 eye cream. These are not over-the-counter beauty products. These are prescription-strength formulas backed by clinical research and designed specifically for midlife skin. The results? Smoother skin, improved firmness, and a brighter, more even tone. Skin changes over time, and a skincare routine should change with it. Alloy makes that simple. No office visits, no pharmacy lines, just expert care delivered straight to your door. Head to myalloy.com and use the code MCH20. That's MCH20 to get $20 off your first order. When I talk about hair issues like dryness, breakage, and damage from heat or color, I want to be very clear. I am not interested in quick fixes or trendy promises. I want something that actually works at the root of the problem. I want real science. That's why I recommend K18. K18 is different because it is built on real hair biology. When researchers could not find a solution that truly repaired hair damage, they created one. Their patented K18 peptide is a breakthrough. It mimics the natural building blocks of hair and reconnects the broken structures from the inside out. This is not coating the hair. This is actual repair. And here's the part I love. It works in just 4 minutes. No complicated routines, no sitting around waiting.
It goes deep into hair's innermost layers and starts reversing damage almost immediately. I have seen the results myself, and I've watched my daughter try it. She said the same thing I hear from everyone else. Her hair feels softer, healthier, and stronger, like hair before the damage ever happened. If you want real, science-backed results that actually work, K18 delivers. Once you try it, you'll understand why this is not just another hair mask. It's a true breakthrough in hair health. Shop at Sephora or get 10% off your first purchase at K18hair.com with the code UNPAUSED. So you were able to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And you have 2 wonderful kids.
Yes.
And they are growing and flowing. And
Yes.
you are very quickly getting close to empty nesting.
Very quickly, very close. Yeah. One's already gone.
And doing well.
Doing well, a freshman. Yep. And very, very proud of him. Worked really, really hard to get in the exact place that he wanted to go. So
good for
very
him.
Proud of him.
So you have your 2 kids. You're done with your family, I'm assuming. At that point, you're happy. You're moving on. Then the symptoms come.
Yeah.
If I remember from the book, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, some of the symptoms were there way
Did it take
before
you kind of
I even
thinking
had
back?
that blood
Like,
test.
oh,
Yeah,
I
of course.
think, I didn't know
Not
at the
until I
time.
started learning. And again, the internet was not active. So yeah, I mean, in my late 20s, I would have night sweats.
Okay.
And I would chalk that up to an allergy, heavy PMS symptoms, stressful living, glass of wine too many,
Yeah.
all
all the things we blame ourselves for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it was it was hormonal, and maybe it was just I was sensitive to hormonal changes. I wasn't tracking my hormones in my late 20s.
No.
Yeah, and migraines. That was the other thing. I was having migraines. Those 2 things were well before those blood tests, which we know now, now that I had looked. So then after my second baby, all of those things returned, massive night sweats. I mean, I remember changing the clothes and lying on towels and changing T-shirts all through the night. Then brain fog because of the disrupted sleep.
Yeah.
But then lots of them came much later when I did learn enough, things like, well, the skin, which led me to, and we'll get to that, but the brand, developing the brand, that was a crazy one. I had no idea that skin issues and dehydration from scalp to vag take place. And then the frozen shoulder, and then the UTIs. I thought UTIs were for people in their 20s or, honeymooners disease, we used to call it.
And honeymoon cystitis is what we called it in medicine. No, it is definitely a lack of estrogen, which we know, but I didn't know that either, even in my training.
And that is what's so fascinating. That, it had to be all of us come together. Women to say, I can't handle this. I'm going to be brave enough to talk about my stories and my body letting me down, and I don't want to suffer. And then the doctors have to listen and then go back, right? And say, this is what we didn't learn, and this is what we now have to get up to speed on.
Yeah, so women don't suffer unnecessarily. So you met your husband, Billy Crudup.
Yes.
At work. You guys were doing a play?
No, we were doing a TV show called Gypsy, which was it was interesting because it was probably the most sexual role of my career at that point in my late 40s. I remember I had my 47th birthday. I think it was 47th or 46th. God, I can't do the math. On the set. And I met him. I had only recently, Liev, my ex, and I had been separated for a while, but we had recently declared that we were not together anymore just before I started filming. And so my head was down. I was like, I just all about getting the work done and focusing on the kids. I was really not expecting to meet someone right away.
Right. Was it instant? You just knew?
No, it was instant in that it was, an immediate reaction and connection, but the brakes were on. I was moving, letting them off slowly.
Very slowly. Yeah.
I certainly didn't want anything to build too quickly. So a friendship was born most of all, a very strong bond, which was kind of key. And then bit by bit, it just grew. And it really wasn't until after COVID that we really got deeper into our relationship.
Where did you spent COVID in New York or
Yes.
out east?
There was at the very beginning, it started in LA, and then came back to New York.
Okay.
It was an interesting time for everyone. We were all like separated, and especially if you had, he had his son.
You have kids, yeah. And you want to be with your kids.
Yeah, and you want to keep the lockdown tight, be respectful, and
a lot of texting.
Yeah, a lot of texting, a lot of FaceTiming.
So there's a great story you shared on Oprah when we were on Oprah together about you were menopausal, you were being appropriately treated, you had your patch or something on, and you hadn't really shared that with him yet.
No. It was this shame plays such a big part of menopause, or especially if you go in early. And I had recently gone on the patch at my new endocrinologist's advice, and that moment came where we were going to get hot and heavy, and I had to excuse myself, and it was not to slip into something more comfortable. It was to scratch off that patch, which we know, ladies, I'm sure your listeners have tried the patch, or some of them. It's got a massive adhesive, and it leaves a nasty mess. And
circle or square where the patch used to be.
Yeah, if you switch sides, and there's one on the other side that hasn't yet come off either, and now you've got two sides. Like, what do I do? So I was in the bathroom far too long, and Billy's like, "Is everything okay?" Knock, knock, and then I came out flustered, and I was like, what am I going to do? What? I could either just excuse myself and be, uncomfortable and weird to him, or I could just own this and say, this is what's going on with my body. And I did. I ended up, through a flustered, amount of words, I just said, well, there's this thing, and I was trying to get it off, and, I'm in menopause, and I don't know if you know much about that, but you have to wear a patch, and that it levels your estrogen, and oh my God, should I just leave? And he cracked up laughing and just said, oh my God, first of all, I'm so glad you're getting the right treatment, and let's talk about this. How can I help? And, that was just like the gateway to owning my story and intimacy, the gateway to intimacy.
Right.
I felt like more supported, more seen. Yeah, it was just a loving moment.
Amazing. And it kind of gave you power to say, you know what, I did the worst thing. I said the thing.
And it didn't spook him.
Yeah,
and it was a litmus test. Like, I'm going to stick around.
So hot flashes was one of your main symptoms?
I wouldn't say it was my main, but yeah, definitely.
There?
It was the most embarrassing.
Okay, let me hear it.
I was on a plane, and I wouldn't actually, embarrassing is the wrong word, panic, because you just want to take off everything, get rid of the layers. And I was in a middle seat, and I'd already gone to the bathroom too many times, much to the chagrin of the man on the aisle seat. And if there was an eject button, I would have just pressed it. I was like, get me out of here. You just want the earth to swallow you up. And in this case, the skies. It just fills you with panic and dread. Like, you just assume that everybody is looking at you, and, the blood pressure that is rising.
There's a sense of impending doom.
Yeah.
Many women have right as the hot flash occurs.
Yeah. And it was so early on that I definitely didn't have my stuff together. And, I didn't really know what was happening. I thought maybe it was a panic attack, or, but the hot flashes, I would say I got under control quickly because I went on HRT.
Yeah.
And I have been successfully on HRT. I know it's not everyone's choice, but I have been on it since 2013.
Yeah. I'm almost at 10 years.
Right.
So 48.
Yeah. Those hot flashes, and I know they hit some people in the most extraordinary of places that can be your undoing. And, there's some mentions of it in my book of other women as well, not just the story I just said.
And mine was in the OR was the worst, because you're draped in all these gowns, and you've got your scrubs and the hat and the mask. And then my mask, we had a protector.
Yes.
Because I wore glasses, so I couldn't wear the goggles.
And you're steaming up.
Steaming. steaming, and they would have to come.
And you're operating.
They would have to come with a 4x4 little gauze, dipped in water to clean the screen off, so I could see to operate while I'm drenched underneath. It was very quickly after that I said, I was still under the impression that HRT was dangerous. You only do it if it's the last course, and I said, I can't live like this.
Right.
I'll take the gamble. I went on HRT.
I mean, and now I think the work that has been done by you guys, you doctors, and us other people, I think women can now in those moments say, give me a minute.
Yeah.
Can I just adjust the, who's got the remote control? Or let me just take off a layer, or I'll be back in 5, and no shame. Own that and hold your head high. It's just biology, right?
And not be so embarrassed and ashamed. I think good study out of the UK that 1 in 5 to 1 in 10 women will quit their jobs at the height of their career when they have the most to give, the most wisdom, because of untreated menopause symptoms, and they just don't feel it. And a lot of that is the brain fog and the cognitive, struggles that they're like, I can't remember the numbers or the names or the math. And, people who rely on that recall,
that's crazy.
It's really tough. And we don't have to live like that.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so here you are now on the other side, exploding career. I love, the algorithm happily shows me every new part, all of these incredible roles that you're just killing right now. And you're hydrated, you're lubricated, your symptoms are appropriately treated. You're on this path. What is going to stop you now?
I'm tired. I'm definitely tired.
You're working
I need
a
few naps. No, I mean, this is the thing, is that we're not done. And that was the message that we were fed.
I remember your interview, the roundtable with Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
And you so beautifully were talking about the work mantra, once you hit, once the big breakthrough role, and then it was like, do as much as you can. So talk about that.
Yeah, because I came into Hollywood, the launching of Mulholland Drive was, as you said, like 33-ish. And it was like, you got to work because it's all finished at 40. And I was like, well, why? What do you mean? And then, it's like, femme fatale roles are not going to be there for you anymore. And, when you get to a certain age, you're
the grandma.
Yeah.
It feels like, at least not now, but back, when I was in my 30s, thinking of, there's like these ages in Hollywood of girlfriend.
Yeah.
Some kind of gritty character, a lawyer, whatever. And then grandma.
Yeah. Exactly.
And there's
nothing in
between.
Which is changing.
Yeah.
And I mean, just look last year, 3 women that I know, Pamela Anderson, Nicole Kidman, Demi Moore, in sexually driven movies.
And age appropriate.
And age appropriate. It's fantastic that means that the tide and the narrative is definitely changing. And I think we all have something to do with that. We want to be seen. We want our stories reflected. Yeah. That's all people are looking for the whole time, is to know that they're not alone. They're not outside of it.
Do you think it's the Reese Witherspoons, and I mean everybody's getting into production now, but like women are starting to drive.
Yeah.
These producing, and so therefore
that's like exactly right.
Getting the mind open to, this could be financially successful because you have to make money, right?
Yeah.
Everything is. But they're proving that these are going to be good financially successful, and women will go and see them.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Reese has been absolutely instrumental in driving female-driven stories, and lots of other. I've been working with Ryan Murphy recently, and not only is he giving me roles at this age, but like multiple women around my age. And it's heartening. It really is, because like I said, we want to see ourselves celebrated, reflected at every point in life. And we're not unsexy. We're not unfuckable. We're not done.
You stopped me in my tracks the first time. And the backstory I talked about when we first met. And I owe you a debt of gratitude, because your team kind of plucked me out of obscurity to bring me up to this meeting. And it just took me out of my little shell. I had a modest social media following. I wasn't.
But I was following you.
You were?
Of course I was. But you know what? Here's the thing. I was still in secret menopause, right?
Yeah.
Trying to, were you around.
Like, was this going to be career suicide at some point?
Yes.
Were you worried?
Absolutely. Of course I was. I thought this would be a terrible idea. But I was trying to find resources myself through Instagram, and I have a private account, and I would follow you and a great number of others, the whole list of doctors. And I really relied on these people because I needed to piecemeal the information.
Because you were young and you didn't have friends, I'm guessing, that weren't, they got there eventually, but you were kind of the first.
Well, I mean, not in my 30s, I wasn't doing that, but like in my 40s, yeah.
This episode of Unpaused is proudly sponsored by Amica Insurance. It feels good to be understood. Amica goes above and beyond to customize the right coverage for you by taking the time to really understand your needs. Because putting you first is what a mutual company does. Whether you're at home or on the road, Amica knows it's not just about where you're going, but who you go with. Go with a company that understands you. As a customer-owned company, Amica puts your needs first. Visit amica.com and get a quote today. Perimenopause is not early menopause. It is its own distinct biological phase, and it has been largely ignored. My new book, The New Perimenopause, is about the 7 to 10 years before your periods stop, a transition that is anything but gentle. Hormones fluctuate wildly, and for many women, this is when the anxiety, brain fog, sleep disruption, weight changes, mood shifts, joint pain, and that unsettling feeling of, I don't feel like myself anymore, begin. Long before anyone says the word menopause. Perimenopause often starts quietly. It shows up in the brain first, then the body, then everywhere else. And too often, women are told, nothing is wrong. I wrote The New Perimenopause because you deserve answers before things spiral. You deserve care before burnout. And you deserve a clear roadmap for a transition that medicine has ignored for far too long. The New Perimenopause is now available for pre-order everywhere books are sold. Learn more and pre-order your copy at thepauselife.com. So you decide to do a brand around menopause.
Yes, and that's where we met.
Pushback?
I wasn't listening to the pushback. I was listening to myself. That was, like I'm sure you've had a moment, you've had ideas that you've percolated for several months, possibly years, and you test the waters with your contemporaries. I'm sure that most people, when they come up with an idea, just like comedians go out and test their jokes, we think it through. We test through our friends. And I was getting met with, no, you're not in menopause. You're far too young, or, don't be silly. Like if I would say, I'm having an estrogen dip, I would be getting plenty of messaging from those around me that this isn't a real thing. Don't go there, kind of, I'm not willing to talk about it. So why should you? So I definitely kept it tight for a long time. But I did have just enough people encouraging me. One friend who, this was back in my 40s, said, write the book, because I said, I wish there was a handbook. I wish there was something that gave me the courage, that made me feel like this wasn't the end, that made me feel like I can still be sexy and funny and navigate this with some kind of ease. Not this horrible narrative that tells you must go to the corner and pull out your frickin' knitting needles. No, we're living longer. We're half the population. Why is it so taboo? So I definitely sat quietly with it for a very long time. And it wasn't until COVID, and I'd already had that wonderful level of support from my boyfriend, now husband. And then I cold pitched the idea to Amyris, which was a biotech company. I literally just rang them up in COVID out of the blue and said, I have an idea. And I've been thinking about it. And I literally pulled off Instagram, pictures and quotes. And, I'm sure one of your quotes was on there, and made this kind of pitch deck, which I'd never even done before,
And this is before ChatGPT, to help you out.
Absolutely.
You do it all on your own.
And said, and chatted with them for like 20 minutes. And before the call was over, they were like, this is great. We want to do it. Let's do this.
So tell me about scalp to vag.
Yeah. Well, first thing I want to talk about this woman. I wanted this woman to feel like she could have her dignity, that she could have agency over this time, that she was not lost. She was not done.
Yeah.
That her experiences amounted to something. She matters. And that she should be able to hold her head high. And because of her wisdom and cumulative experiences. And it's a time for her to shine and be vibrant. She's earned her stripes. That title came to me when I was struggling to find it. And I was pitching the elevator pitch to a friend. And then I just thought, okay, stripes, that's what it is. It doesn't have to scream menopause, but this is what it is. So I thought, I want this woman to feel like she has education on her side, and I want her to have her community with her, because we need our community at every point.
So that is where I kind of walked out of
That's
that
when you
weekend.
Yeah.
Well, I was invited to this kind of brand launch think tank,
yeah.
And I was a medical expert, and there were multiple people there of different, everyone
expertise
from,
and
And so, but you were so focused on that woman sitting on the couch in Ohio. How can we serve her?
Yeah.
And sure, if she buys the products, great. That's great.
Yeah.
But I was just so impressed that you were so intent on building a community, of making her feel special and welcome,
Yes.
and not that this was the end of life for her.
Yes.
Or the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
And I'll just,
It is different. It's different. And let's own that piece.
And that's okay. Yeah.
That's okay. And I had worked closely with lots of wonderful brands, but I felt like they were overpromising. Beautiful ingredients, beautiful everything. This ideology that we can reverse time and, or you can look 28 again.
Yeah.
We don't want that,
we don't
actually.
want anti-aging, no.
So yeah, and thank you for saying that. It was absolutely crucial to me that this woman feels seen and proud of everything that she's been through. And yes, hydrated, very importantly, with very targeted ingredients, but also that she felt supported through her community, and education was current.
Did you ever think that you would say the word vagina so many times in public?
And you remember this too, that I was like, the vagina stuff is off the table. I'm not going to say vagina. I'm not going to say dry vagina. I'm not going to do any of that. I was really nervous still, but I guess you can't do things in half measures, can you? You've got to go there.
Do your kids follow your accounts at all on
Yes,
social?
they do. And they've had the ick with me like so many times.
Mine too. Like, they're super proud of me. And not now, of course, we've been doing this 10 years now. But in the beginning, like, my mom's famous for talking about vaginas on social media, not in a way that is at all sexy, you know?
Yeah. No, for sure. In the beginning, it was like, ew, Mom, no way. And then, saying, well, you'll never get in Sephora if you're talking about vibrators or lube or any of that. No way. And I said, well, I don't know, actually. And, now we see vibrators being sold at Urban Outfitters and lube everywhere, and Target, Sephora, Ulta, all of these places. So,
but when you conceived this brand, you saw a gap in the market.
Yeah. I did. I saw that this woman had been left out and not spoken to directly or honestly.
People come up to you on the street because they saw you in a movie or a part or something, but that's changing. That wave is changing for you to, thank you so much. You've really helped me. How does that feel?
It feels so meaningful. Not that the other stuff isn't still meaningful, but I think as I've gotten older, I just have enjoyed that shift of being useful to other women. And I still think that showing up in different characters and reflecting someone else's story that, an audience member is going to connect with, that's also useful. But the newness of being stopped in the street and having a woman not ask for my picture, but looking me in the eye, down the barrel, and saying, thank you for giving me permission to open a dialogue with my partner, with my children, with my boss. It's been really helpful. And, that brings that brings me a lot of joy, it makes me feel not just useful, but purposeful.
So you were I think it just got released with Lena Dunham. You played, was Menopause written into the part?
Yeah.
Was that your idea?
No, it wasn't. She called me because she knew I was going to be okay with talking about menopause.
Yeah.
And it's happened a few times now, but that one was a direct, hey, Naomi, I've got this lady and she's wacky and she wants to talk about menopause. Now, I haven't point blank asked her, did she write it for me or did she think of me after she written it? Either way, it has worked for me in my favor. Maybe it's, hurt me in some ways too. I don't know about those. I doubt it.
Women are really leaning in and they're loving it because it's so real. And I think you were hot flashing, on screen, with the character. All right, let's talk about your book.
Yes.
Which was an honor to write the foreword.
Thank you so much for doing
Beautiful
that.
Story. But this book has been in your mind for a long time.
Yeah.
Why didn't you write it when you first thought?
I think the fear was just too great. First of all, I'm not a writer. That's my big fear. Then the other big piece of fear is like, who wants to hear from you? And also career suicide, like branding myself as the menopause lady. No way. That would just change everything. And I still hope to, play leading lady roles. And so, but eventually carrying that fear, that secret for so long just gets exhausting. Mm-hmm. And then you meet certain people who give you enough encouragement along the way that help you out of that fear.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, I'm past the average age of menopause, which is what, 50, 51?
50, 51, yeah. So it's okay for you to be menopausal.
Yeah, I'm allowed. Guess what?
I like how you said you had books for infertility, you had books for puberty, you had, books to help you with your kids going through, different phases of life.
All of
what
that.
to expect when you're expecting and like what to expect when you're never going to expect again.
Yes,
Where's that book?
No, it wasn't there.
And you also brought in lots of experts,
Oh, yeah. I always knew that I can do only so much of this. And like with the brand, I needed the backup and the endorsement from the people that have devoted their lives to taking care of people.
And what kind of feedback have you gotten on the book? Well, it was a New York Times bestseller.
Yes, that was wonderful. The feedback has been amazing. Again, those moments where people stop me on the street or in the airport or something, that's so meaningful. But I wanted the story to be not just useful, but like palatable, expert driven through, conversations with people like you, and then other women sharing their stories and, some things like how-tos and but also hopefully levity, some humor, because
it
there
was
are
funny.
moments,
I laughed out loud.
There are moments that are
reading.
Truly undignified, but hey, it's just biology. We feel less awful about it ourselves if we know that somebody else has been down that road and coped and survived and found ways to walk through it. So that's ultimately why I did it in the end.
What do you think is next for you? What's your next big horizon? You've got the book, check. The brand, check. It's growing. Yeah. What's new coming out for Stripes?
We're launching a new product. I think the book is now in paperback.
In February, yeah.
In February. Uh-huh. We're launching a new product, a body butter, and that's exciting. We're always social listening, trying to understand what else this woman wants, not just in hydration, what she needs. We're finding that these in real, IRL, I'm learning my acronyms, in real life, like connectivity. Like these events are just, people love them.
Pulling people together.
Yeah, lifting each other up, sharing their stories. More of that in terms of Stripes. I don't know about writing another book. I felt like that was a lot. You are very productive. I know.
I like the manuscript is in.
I mean.
And I'm already pregnant with the next book.
God,
I haven't even given
3.
birth.
Oh, you are on number 4.
4.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I want to explore longevity.
Yeah.
Like menopause, check, but menopause is one day medically.
But how do we...
Had this last 30 years? Like, what is the blueprint?
I think we're all invested in that.
And take the bro science out of it.
Yeah.
To be honest,
right.
Not all studies can be applied to women, and really lean in on what do we know about women living longer.
Yeah.
We are living longer, but when we look at the statistics, we live 20% of our lives in poorer health than our male counterparts.
I'm seeing it in my parents' generation. Yeah.
I'm very focused because my mom, Alzheimer's, fractured hip, osteoporosis, my grandmother, exact same thing. And I am refusing for that to be I'm doing everything I can, but I will not allow that to be my daughter's reality.
Right.
They deserve to live long, healthy, happy, full lives.
Yeah.
But I don't want to live to 120. Do you?
No, definitely not.
A nice ripe old age, but I want to be functional.
That said, but I want to be functional. I had two grandmothers, one that lived to 99, just past her birthday, and one to 101.
Amazing.
And all the marbles in place, mercifully. My grandmother on my mother's side, she was living at home right up until the end.
I mean, that's all I want, you know, be independent.
Yeah.
And have a fulfilled life.
So to answer your question, I still have lots of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to innovate, but I don't want to miss, a moment, which I have seen happen to many of my parents' generation, where they get done with lots of things and then they want to have time for themselves to travel and do, adventurous, brilliant things. And then suddenly their health gets in the way.
Yeah.
So I don't want to lose too much time. So to your point, I want to take care of my health.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never be not a doer. I'm my grandmother's daughter. Her work ethic is in me. Get off your butt and get it done. She's muck out the goats, feed the chickens, all of that. And so I'm a busy bee. That said, I want my kids to be content and off out into the world and be compassionate, empathetic, curious human beings. Mm-hmm. And I want some time with my husband.
Yeah.
I want to travel and loaf around a bit too.
We're empty nesters, totally.
Yes.
And we went to Norway for 2 weeks and went hiking with our best friends.
I saw that. That's so great.
It's incredible. We are trying to, we spent the summer in the mountains pretty much and just the two of us, and we're.
Yeah. So it's the balance. It's like I know you're still going to be wanting to do move mountains. So. And I will too. But yeah, creating the balance is what it's all about.
Enjoying this relationship.
Because Billy and I came into it late. We've got
time to make up for.
We want to put some time on the clock.
So if you could sit down with a woman just entering perimenopause, I'm sure you're different. You always get to work with different people.
Yeah.
And so are you now the menopause person, the queen? They come to you and they ask your advice?
I mean, I definitely do find my inbox flooding with questions about menopause from my industry because they know and have heard me bang on about it enough now. Mm-hmm. And it is like a little club, where I welcome them in and try and be an ear and shoulder. And I set them up with doctors. Some I've led you away, just for that conversation. Just it's okay. Don't worry. Yeah, it's.
But for the younger ones who are just getting there,
I think,
putting a toe in the water. What's your advice?
I think collectively, everyone has created enough of a good network for the next generation, the millennials, and definitely Gen Z, to feel not daunted by what's ahead.
And that's what I see on my social is the audience is skewing younger and younger, and especially the new perimenopause is coming out. And they're not scared. They're curious.
Yeah.
They want to get ahead of this.
Yeah.
They're willing to talk about it. They are willing to invest in their own healthcare. They're willing to set themselves up for success and not just wait for the tide to crash over them.
It's great for them. And I'm happy that I had a little piece of something to do with that. And
you were the first.
But
in my mind,
I think we were all there. And collectively, we knew it had to be done. We've always been fascinated with the older generation, like in storytelling. I remember growing up on Thelma and Louise and going, badasses. Those ladies, they were kicking butt and living life for themselves. And I want, so they've always wanted to learn from us, the next generation. So it's just menopause was never part of the conversation.
Right.
So hopefully, yes, we have been instrumental in shifting that narrative and bringing them in with less fear.
Yeah. So menopause often feels like society wants us to hit pause, okay, and go off in the corner and get the knitting needles and become more invisible. And we're not doing that. This is our time to unpause. So what are you doing in your life besides writing books, starting companies, building brands, building communities?
Yeah. I mean, I really just want to make sure that travel, I've always been someone who likes to travel. That's a big part of my picture. Getting my kids in a place. Well, I mean, it never ends. Your daughter's right outside.
Yeah.
And the parenting is never done.
Never done.
And the worry is never. I'm sure, going to go away. But I think just more of the same, but maybe not at such a speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely have been guilty of that. I need to slow the pace a bit. So that's definitely a goal of mine.
Well, I'm so happy to have talked to you today on Unpaused, and good luck with everything. I can't wait to see all your new projects come out. And everybody grab your paperback copy of Dare I Say It in February.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
As a reminder to our audience, you can follow Naomi on Instagram at Naomi Watts or at Stripes Beauty, or on their website at stripesbeauty.com. Naomi's book, Dare I Say It, is currently available in hardback, and the paperback edition will be released in February. I'd love to hear from you about this topic or anything else that's on your mind. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Mary Claire and get honest, accurate information on health, fitness, and navigating midlife at thepauselife.com. My new book, The New Perimenopause, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. If you're loving this podcast, be sure to click follow on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. While you're there, leave us a review and be sure to share the show with the women you love. We would be so grateful. You can also find full episodes on YouTube at Dr. Mary Claire. Unpaused is presented by Odyssey in conjunction with Pod People. I'm your host, Dr. Mary Claire Haver. The views and opinions expressed on Unpaused are those of the talent and guests alone and are provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. No part of this podcast or any related materials are intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.